Favourite thing in Shrewsbury?
It's Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury. My favourite thing about Shrewsbury is
it's not Telford.
The most unusual thing about Shrewsbury is
the people.
Don't particularly like the people.
It's a very polite place to live.
Shropshire born and bred, strong in the arm and thick in the head.
The most famous person I know of.
Charles Darwin.
Charles Darwin.
Other than Charles Darwin, no.
Oh yeah, Percy Thrower.
It is a town of contradictions.
Mark Steele's in town.
Thank you very much. Lovely welcome. Welcome to Mark Steele's In Town, which this week comes from the Seven Theatre in the Shropshire town of Shrewsbury or Shrewsbury, with its endless listed buildings and riverside walks and floral displays, so that visitors walk round and can't help but think, you're a bit up yourselves here, aren't you? Everything here is at least 500 years old. You see a 13th century castle, assume it's where a duke lived, it turns out to be Greg's the Baker's. And so many important figures are connected with Shrewsbury. Michael Palin went to school here, and most famously Charles Darwin, who travelled the seas studying species, was from here. So the most prominent people to come from Shrewsbury are people prepared to go literally anywhere in the world rather than stay in Shrewsbury. And yet there are so many attractions here designed specially for their instant appeal to teenagers. The tourist website boasts Shrewsbury as a one-off, and as soon as you step out of the train station, you spot it has the largest mechanical signal box in the world. It's like Ibiza here, isn't it? The tourist website also has this poem on its homepage to sum up the attractions of the town. Drinks with mates or dinner with a date, stay up and explore until it's very late. And what's unique about the very beautiful river here is it doesn't just go through the town in a line like boring rivers. It goes in a loop, almost in a circle, with the town inside it, so that on a map Shrewsbury looks like a lovely little testicle. But while it may not be as adventurous as other nearby urban centres, such as Oswestry, it's calming and peaceful and with an accent specially designed to confuse the outsider. Because somehow what you manage to do when you're talking here is you manage to start off quite near the Black Country, then you go on a trip to Worcester and go all the way back to the West Midlands all in a sentence. Even so, Shrewsbury was recently voted the politest town in Britain. You can't be rude here. There are 600 listed buildings. Everything seems to be Tudor and full of beams and unsuitable for anybody more than 3'6". The signs as you come in, instead of saying Shrewsbury welcomes careful drivers, they should say Shrewsbury, mind your head. And in some ways, I think you're underselling yourselves, because it's portrayed as pretty and old and everything's full of flowers, but behind that there's a brilliant, sinister side here. You can tell that from the names of some of your alleys. They have these medieval names like Bear Steps and Grope Lane, where it said prostitutes took their clients, and this is all made out to be quaint and lovely. So the tour guides go, up here is Disembowelment Passage. Leading on to Finger-Ass Avenue. There are streets here that seem so historical. You just walk down the road half expecting women to throw buckets of piss out the window. And cobbles everywhere. Everywhere you go, cobbles. It's a nice touch, really, seeing as half the people trying to get round in this town are 90 and in a mobility scooter. Every time they pop out for a packet of biscuits, so they feel that they've been in a liquidiser. The first time I came to Shrewsbury, I thought it was all tea shops and cobbles, but only for about an hour, as I went round the Corn Exchange with the giant sundial thing, and I wandered by the river in the park that you call the Quarry, and I thought, idyllic England, home of romantic poets and wistful dreams. And then these two teenagers, honestly true, they came out of a bush, and one said to the other, "How can I say I love you when you're out of your head on glue, you moron?" So behind the chutney and the Tudor beams, there is a little bit of tension here. And that's a positive thing. There should be a little poem on the website. Glue with mate to get in a state. Or time to explore with amyl nitrate. Not all tourists appreciate the historic charms. There's a message on TripAdvisor, which is glorious. It has a headline, Shrewsbury Beware, with a little exclamation mark, and it says, "My wife and I were spending a few days touring in Shropshire and we planned to visit Shrewsbury Cathedral last Sunday. We had never been to Shrewsbury before, but sadly we never made it to the cathedral. We decided to head for St Julian's car park, as that seems to be the closest to the cathedral. Armed with a map of the city, we found ourselves in a series of one-way streets, all of which took us in a northwesterly direction. However hard we tried, we were unable to find a route to the St Julian's car park. Not once did we see a sign to the cathedral. We eventually gave up, frustrated and very angry, left Shrewsbury, vowing never to return. In my long experience of visiting towns and cities of interest, Shrewsbury is without doubt the most visitor-unfriendly one I have ever experienced." And then the first reply on TripAdvisor to this sad tale goes, "If it softens the blow, the cathedral's closed to visitors on Sunday anyway." Now, one occasion when this was a place that attracted large numbers was during the war, when hundreds of evacuees were sent here, especially from Liverpool, that was getting bombed. According to the book of Shrewsbury that I have there, one girl located here went missing after a few days when it turned out she wanted to go home so badly she stole a bicycle and cycled back to Birkenhead. You can't keep people for 5 minutes. When you won that politeness award, the judges can't have been anywhere near anybody rowing about how the town is pronounced. There are groups such as Shrewsbury, not Shrewsbury, with a website that claims it receives hundreds of messages of support. And of course there's Shrewsbury, not Shrewsbury, set up in opposition. When all this was reported in the Shropshire Star, the first comment from someone called JJ went, "I don't pronounce the R at all and say Shrewsbury." How do you manage this? The Welsh are only round the corner. They have place names with 43 consecutive consonants and managed to agree on how to pronounce the place. What letter are you going to take out next? Now, you could be asked. In 200 years, it'll just be sh. So what is it then? I'm going to ask, what is it? This is true. The BBC have a pronunciation unit, and you can ring them up about some village in the middle of Siberia, and it's got, "Oh, what is it called?" And they'll go, but here they go, "Well, I don't know." Whatever we say, someone complains, I'll give up. This will be the next war zone over this issue. There'll be war reporters on the telly going, "Behind me I can hear the crack of gunfire from Shrewsbury guerrillas as they advance on the Darwin shopping centre. But there are rumours that Shrewsbury brigades have formed an alliance with a legion of Shrewsbury partisans and almost recaptured the outskirts of Ditherington. There have also been skirmishes we hear around Reebrook, though some say it should be Raybrook." And the buildings here, as I'm sure you're all aware, they've won so many awards. And in 2009, this very theatre was shortlisted for a prestigious prize called the Carbuncle Cup. Presented to the ugliest building in Britain completed in the last 12 months. People like it. I think it's a brilliant theatre, this. Why do people complain about it? Small and ugly? Oh, no.
A pile of bricks and metal.
It's just a pile of bricks and metal. That's what buildings are made of. Why can't it be made of something different, like bubbles? And you've also got the Market Hall Clock Tower. You fond of that? Built in 1965, the story of Shrewsbury lovingly describes as a structure that repels one, thrusting itself in a way that contributes nothing, not even to its own shadow. I'm going to be controversial here. I actually like that clock tower. Are people fond of it? You are then? I think that's brilliant. What is the clock tower? Listen, knock it down. I'm trying to defend you. You don't want it, do you? No, we like to argue. You really haven't got much to complain about here, have you? Oh, do you know what I like about it? I like about that clock tower is it's got a clock face on each of the four sides and every one of the clocks is slightly different. I like that. Oh, so boring to have clocks all the same. It's like one of those posh hotels, you know, and they'll have clocks up, won't it? London, New York, Paris, Tokyo, just telling you the time in different places. Shrewsbury, Telford, Iron Bridge, and then for Wem, 1953. You know what, where I went that I thought was brilliant? Much Wenlock. That's a brilliant place. That's where the Olympics was invented. And I thought, oh, right, yeah, and then I went there, and it's about 6 inches long. The 100 metres must have been 9 laps of the whole town. The discus went straight through someone's window. Oh, I like it there. There's no one here come all the way from there, is there? Is there? Oh, bless you, much Wenlock people. That's all of it. It's empty. Let's go and burgle it. I went on one of the riverboat cruises as well. Do you all go on them? You don't go on them? Why not? They're crap. Oh, I know they are, but beautiful, but in a beautiful way. You're lucky here with the river, because sometimes it floods, doesn't it? So sometimes you can go on a riverboat cruise through your own kitchen, which is... It's Ian here who very kindly took us on a riverboat cruise yesterday. It must be hugely popular, isn't it? Maybe not with these people.
It is very popular.
What's the most... Do you get an annoying passengers? Where the hen parties?
No, they're all right, they are, because once they're drunk, they're quite amusing.
This place is so polite. The hen parties mostly sort of play bridge. What about when it floods? Does that get interesting?
It does, yeah. It makes the boat go a bit faster.
Now, something I would hope, anti-clock tower person, that you would agree that one of the most beautiful parts of the town may well be the Dingle Gardens. All agreed on that? In the Quarry. This is where natural Shropshire beauty and Shrewsbury politeness... I said Shrewsbury then, didn't I? And Shrewsbury politeness combine. It's the only park I've ever been to where, to keep everything in order, there's a bouncer called Yanis. Do people know Yanis? I would imagine he must be Shrewsbury's most prominent Croatian security guard. He's a nightclub bouncer in the evening, and in the... well, till things are shut. He's a nightclub bouncer in the evening. In the day, he's the security guard at the park, and does look like he'll say to anyone coming in, "You can't come in here looking at water lilies wearing trainers." I was talking to him, and he was very friendly, but he was distracted by a teenager while I was talking to him, and honestly, the conversation sort of went, "It's a beautiful park, a lovely flower bed, I particularly adore it. Yo! I pick up a crisp packet and put in bin! In the bin! Now! Like a daffodils, I like a daffodil." And then he said, which is just brilliant in his accent, he went, "See that statue, Percy Thrower, he a lovely man." Because anyone can have statues of kings and generals, but here your most popular statue is of a gardener. Because Percy Thrower was the park superintendent here before presenting Gardener's World, and that's given him pretty much the same status in Shrewsbury as other bits of the world give to Nelson Mandela. This one of the country's most prestigious public schools here, Shrewsbury School, is a proper public school. It's not like one of those 15 grand a year cheap fake ones that leave you with only a 50-50 chance of ending up in therapy with a smack habit. This is a proper one. They play a game there called Eton Fives, right? The kids go on a run that they call a hunt, and the school website describes it like this. The first person to cross the finish line is said to have killed, and at the start of the school races, he goes to the front of the pack yelling, "Any hound who intends to kill, run hard, run well, and may the devil take the hindmost." I mean, any other school would keep this sort of stuff quiet. As evidence they're not well. These schools boast about it, and their brochures go, "Each term begins by tradition with Guantanamo Day, in which first years ride naked on a llama around the quadrangle and are waterboarded by a head boy dressed as Joanna Lumley." I looked at a discussion on the Mumsnet website about the school, and this was one bit of the discussion. On the open day, all the head went on about was Darwin, Darwin, Darwin. I said, "Well, Darwin's dead. Can we now discuss the school, please?" And then the same person wrote, "When I spoke to the head of maths about my son's maths ability, he was shocked as he'd never come across a child so gifted." You have to put with people like that. Despite all that effort, though, of creating a posh school, the town ends up being more famous for making a crumbly cake. First made in the 1650s, apparently, in which case there's no point in going on about it as the baker is dead. The radical poet, Coleridge, not averse himself to mind-altering substances, he lived here and he preached at the Unitarian Church. But the story of Shrewsbury says, during his time here, he may well have worked on his famous poem, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. And, of course, it is possible that he did that, I suppose. It's certainly probable that he preached his famous rhyme here, that went, "I could sing praise for days and days to Lord God in his heaven, or instead get out of my head with glue by the River Severn." There's also a high level of debate here about how best to present the town. There's been a discussion, I see, about street entertainers in Shrewsbury. This was a typical comment on the discussion forum for Shrewsbury. "After listening to people on the radio whinging about street entertainers in Shrewsbury, I'd say if you want somewhere soulless and sterile, instead you should go to Telford." I don't know how anyone can go to Telford from here when you think that the place is so sterile they do not even have a statue of Hercules in their park. Does anyone know why there is a statue of Hercules in the park? I mean, I'm not an expert on Greek mythology, but was Hercules said to be from Shrewsbury? Maybe he was, and the original story goes, the king of Argos instructed Hercules to carry out 12 mighty labours. First he ordered, "You must build a mighty mechanical signal box." Now, is Stuart about? Hi, Stuart, all right. And Hercules, the statue of Hercules, was known by a different name for a while.
Yeah, he was Colin.
Why was Hercules called Colin, which I'm not sure was in the original?
The graffiti on the front said Colin in big red letters.
And it was just left there. But I think Shrewsbury should go for it, definitely. There's no point in being full of cathedrals and battle sites if you can't claim that everything happened here. The bloody Shrewsbury book claims that there was someone brought up here called Fulk Greville, who many believe was the real Shakespeare. And the evidence they offer is that he once claimed to have written Antony and Cleopatra, and, according to the book, he was reserved. So it's feasible that if he had written the plays, he wouldn't have wanted it to be known. That's pretty convincing, isn't it? And an even more prominent local figure was someone connected with the football club, because the old ground at Gay Meadow backed onto the river. So there was a man whose job it was to sit in the river in a coracle outside the ground, and if the ball came over, he had to row and fetch the ball. God, that would wind up Marino, wouldn't it? It's not fair. For we have to wait 20 minutes for the ball to come back from man who collecting coracle. And now ball is wet. So our player cannot head ball for they are had hairstyled and will spoil a gel. Did anybody ever witness this happening? Does anyone know who the coracle man is? Is he sort of...
Fred Davis.
Fred Davis? And is he still about? Is he not?
He's dead now, so we don't talk about him.
Then, of course, there's the issue of where we are in the country, because one of the reasons that Shrewsbury is full of castles and historic buildings is it's dangerously near Wales. You've only got to doze off on the bus, I would imagine, and you'll wake up there. And then you'll just have to act as calm as you can, make no eye contact. And on no account say to anyone the words that someone told me while I was here. As I'm sure you know, we killed Owen Glandore just outside W.H. Smith's. But this all suggests that Shrewsbury is not as innocent, maybe, as it looks, with its cobbles and its steps and its cathedrals, because the main pastime here, over the centuries, has been fighting. Whenever there was trouble in England, you were in the middle of it. You were the Jeremy Clarkson of the 11th to 17th centuries. Every few months, the rest of the country went, oh, what's Shrewsbury done now? And the brilliant thing is you've managed to take all this slaughter and bloodshed and carnage and turned it into a tourist attraction. Come and visit our lovely castle on a mystery coach trip and have a scone on the very spot where 800 people were hacked to pieces with a sword. It's like if in 500 years' time you can go on a weekend break to Syria and a guide says, now I suggest you enjoy a lovely cream tea and then we'll visit the place where ISIS massacred the villagers. You can who you like, the analogy stands. Now, eventually in history, the Welsh King Dafydd was captured in 1283. King Edward I decided to put Dafydd on trial, but before, a specially convened body at the chapter house of Shrewsbury Abbey. Now, 20 towns across Britain sent 2 delegates each, and this was England's first ever Parliament in Shrewsbury. An account of one delegate survives, which says, such honour it is to humble my soul, for I journeyed to pass laws of England from Chester to Shrewsbury, but should claim expenses from London and for a second home. Then Henry IV took the throne off Richard II. But there was a fight about this, because Henry IV's own supporters rebelled against him and teamed up with the Welsh under Owen Glandore to attack Shrewsbury. And so the town became the subject of the famous Henry IV play, when Henry makes the classic speech. Let spirits rejoice in quest of battle, for we march this morn to slay festering foe, who doth pronounce this town by name of Shrewsbury, when Shrewsbury be its very name. Stirring words written by the master Fulk Greville. In the 1700s, Clive of India was brought up here. You know about him, do you? Yeah. Well, the first thing you notice here, he was from Shrewsbury. He wasn't called Clive of Shrewsbury. He grew up here and he said, how far away is India? Yeah? All right, that'll do. That's far enough. I'm off. Now, people must have very fond memories of Clive of India. A biography says, Clive is reputed to have climbed the tower of St Mary's Parish Church and perched on a gargoyle, with a girl below shouting, how can I say I love you when you're out of your head on laudanum, moron? Some of the Victorian ideas haven't gone away either. The book Victorian Shrewsbury says, no one would regard Rouse Hill as one of Shrewsbury's more attractive thoroughfares. Locals still regard it with much distrust as a place they were forbidden to go in their childhood. I don't want you playing with the Rouse Hill people. Some of their rooms aren't even Elizabethan. Above all, though, in Shrewsbury, there's Darwin, Darwin, Darwin. Charles Darwin, who developed a theory of evolution that he called natural selection, that transformed our understanding of the natural world. He was brought up here and went to the school here, so it's only appropriate that there's a Darwin shopping centre. The local history website assures us the Darwin Shopping Centre in Shrewsbury has no direct connection with Charles Darwin except for his name. Which must be in case anybody thought he must have done adverts where he pushed a shopping trolley saying, Morrison's turkey steaks at only £2.49 are my natural selection. It's only natural for Shrewsbury, and especially the school, to make Darwin the centre of their image, because his love of the town is shown by the way he left here for Edinburgh, then went on a 5-year voyage to the Galapagos Islands in the Pacific without ever mentioning Shrewsbury. Recently it was decided that the problem with Shrewsbury is that there's not enough stuff about Darwin here. And so a new statue was put up which was called Quantum Leap. Do you like it? Because I've read some people complain about it. Is that...
Pointless.
Pointless? Yeah, but I mean, well, statues are pointless though, aren't they? What, do you want a statue that does all your shopping for you? In the debate in the local newspaper, the comments were fairly even-handed. There's one of them. The finished product seems to look like a giant toast rack. It'd be better to put a cage round it and fill it with monkeys. That'd be a statue, wouldn't it? There's something brilliant. Darwin suits Shrewsbury because it's important and historical and respectable, but at the same time there's a rebellion at the heart of it. And when you look closely at Shrewsbury, it's not just beautiful and pretty and chocolate boxy, it's tatty round the edges like a town's meant to be. You could come here to study anything, Shrewsbury. You could come here to study science, architecture, geography, or particularly poetry, as the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge left a legacy of romantic verse, especially lines on a Shropshire jewel, which I will leave you with, because I couldn't put it any better than him, and thank you very much for coming along. Your reflections in the river want to whisper I love you, but can only utter wistfully, you're out your head on glue. Through your cobbled streets I weave and wander in a dream. As I'm off to A&E, I've smashed my head upon a beam. For England's fairest town, ancient questions must you pose, that no man may e'er resolve. Is it Shrewsbury or Shrows? Thank you very much.
Mark Steele's In Town was written and performed by Mark Steele, with additional material by Pete Sinclair. It was produced in Shrewsbury by Carl Cooper.